Today's guest is somebody who I just have so much respect for, who I really enjoy as a person, and who has been an absolute great friend to me through my time in Australia in this last year. And I was so excited to talk to him because not only is he incredible and has this amazing career, we are talking to Stevie English today, who is the Global Creative Director for Evo, which is incredible. And I really wanted to know kind of how that happened and all of these things. But Stevie has worked for numerous color brands, which I thought was quite interesting to have kind of gone through the steps of going through very different color lines and how that happened and why that happened. So he's worked for Wella and L'Oreal and Matrix and O&M and now Evo. So kind of hearing his journey and how each of those brands fit into his life at that right time. And I found that very interesting, that I think sometimes we work for companies that are quite brand specific and we are so loyal, which is incredible. And, you know, there's nothing disloyal about what he's done, but I just thought it was really nice to hear that nothing's permanent and you pick what suits you and kind of go from there. So he has been hairdressing for 25 years and is from England originally, as if the name doesn't give it away, and that Stevie English is not his actual name. And I thought that's very good branding, you know, that I was like, oh, could have thought that was your last name. So he has his own salon and gone into business, traveled, all kinds of things. And I really find him just a really straight shooter and knew he would have some really valuable information to share with myself and everybody or anybody or nobody who's listening. But I really, really enjoyed chatting with him. So I hope that you enjoy it as well and can get some knowledge out of what we talk about today. So without further ado, Mr. Stevie English. We are live. And tonight I'm so excited. I normally do a morning interview, but I quite prefer this. And I was excited that you wanted to do an after dinner. I feel like we're recharged and ready to go, but I am sitting down with Mr. Stevie English today.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you for making the time for me. I must be the most annoying heckler, right?
Not in the slightest.
Oh, that's nice of you. Yeah. I was hoping you'd say that. I was like, I just know that people get busy and, you know, I'm like, I'm just going to keep sending everyone messages till they agree to do my show.
Yep. No. I'm very happy to be here. And how are you coping in Melbourne in lockdown?
Oh, yeah. Well, to be honest, it's just never ending. So I needed to come up with a project to fill my time. You know, I can only post so many old videos or videos of me styling my hair that nobody wants to see. So I was like, what can I do that's going to help me and answer the questions that I think I have always been curious about? I've always been infatuated with people who have taken their career to the next level. And I just figured, why not ask how they've done it and see if anyone was willing. And to be honest, it's been pretty incredible. Like the people who are willing to chat with me and the knowledge I'm gaining and that people seem to be enjoying is really, it feels like it's been worthwhile.
Well, you know, us hairdressers, we like to talk about ourselves. So, you know, it's quite easy. I reckon you go, oh, you come on and talk to me about yourself.
It's actually true. You're right. That some people, I was like, oh, I bet they don't want to come on. And then the other people who know them are like, what do you mean? He loves talking about himself. All he wants to do is talk about himself. He'd love to come on for an hour.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good trait in hairdressers.
Yeah. And I've missed talking. So it's been quite good because it's killing two birds with one stone, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, I would love to start at the beginning with you. And something that I find so interesting is everybody's story of how they got into hairdressing is quite different. So you have been hairdressing for 25 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. It's 1993.
Oh my God.
I started hairdressing, yeah. So
and
quite a long
was
time
that
ago.
Something that you always wanted to do? Like, did you grow up dreaming of being a hairdresser, or how did you fall into hairdressing?
And fell into hairdressing is the word. Although funny enough, my mother was a barber. But she was a barber in the army, so literally the guys would come in and she'd just crew cut them. So
shave them all.
and you know, yeah, just
like shearing
absolutely.
sheep.
Yeah. So, see you in 2 weeks, and all the young recruits. But it wasn't. No, I didn't wake up one day and go, I really want to do hair. I just fell into hairdressing like lots of young people. I wasn't great at school. I'm left-handed, dyslexic, ADD. You know, and you put that sort of concoction of, you know, put anything sparkly in front of me, put any words in front of me, and I just, you know, completely just, my brain doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't work in like other people's brains.
So in the normal kind of in quotes way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I wanted to go traveling, and my dad said he'd buy me a ticket around the world if I had some spending money. And so I got a local job in a supermarket when I was 17, and it's called Quick Save in England, in the outskirts of London. And it was sort of, you know, and it was that mind-numbing kind of job that you get when you're 17.
Yeah, I used to work at Mr. Greek.
Mr. Greek.
It's like Subway for Greek restaurants.
Ah, awesome.
My mom's like, you smelt like an onion for 2 years.
Well, fantastic. You know, I'm a massive fan of, you know, did the Greeks like onions as well then?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they put onions in tzatziki, and that's what I used to stink of, garlic and onion.
Yum. I love Greek food. And then, but I lost my job in the supermarket after about 7 weeks.
Oh no, you got fired.
I got caught smoking weed out the back. and like I went home, and my dad goes, well, why don't you work? I go, I quit. And then he goes, well, you're not going to go traveling around the world. And in 1993, there's no internet, or the internet as we know it now. So on Wednesdays, the job ads would come in. And so I rang every job ad in the local paper, and one was a hairdressing salon. And so I rocked up, and mind you, when I was 17, I had this terrible, so I had like an undercut, grade 1 under here, right? And I had all these dreads, like this terrible, mate, it was like just so tragic.
Those now.
Yeah, mate.
I thought you were about to do a reveal when you took your hat off, and I've secretly got one back.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I was obviously not responsible enough to have hair. So there you go. And so I walked into a salon called Scissors on the Halfway, which is in Walton-on-Thames, and it was sort of. I think I just sort of. It was just this vibrant body of women that I sort of just. And age. I think there was probably about 10 girls that worked there, aged from like 16 to 30. And I think my head was swiveling like The Exorcist, wasn't quite sure where to look. And, you know, it was that sort of, but it just left this impression of energy and prettiness. And I think I signed up £40 a week to become a hairdresser.
Incredible. I love hearing everyone's story, because some people, their whole lives, they dreamt of being hairdressers, never thought of anything else. And I was kind of like that. And then there's people who, I never wanted to be a hairdresser and ended up in it and loving it. And I think something that attracts people all across the board is the energy in a salon is like nothing else. Like it's addictive. It's exciting. You can't wait to go to work and see your friends, or, you know, half the time it's just exciting to be in the back room in a hair salon. But I think that seems to be the common denominator of what attracts people into hairdressing.
Oh, 100%. And I think the longer you're into, or, you know, after that first, say, 6 weeks, and you see people walking in potentially not happy and leaving happy, and that sort of stuff, so that's quite powerful. And whether I realized it or not at the time, you know, that there was, so, you know, it was just sort of fun. And I think, again, going back to that school where I wasn't good at particularly school work, but I'm quite good at communicating, and I was quite good at talking to people, and I was quite good at, and I wasn't scared of old ladies, and I wasn't scared to have a chat, you know. So, and I think that you know, the emotional intelligence that most of us hairdressers have, that isn't celebrated at school, all of a sudden I could work and
And
all of
be
a sudden I was good
yourself
at it.
and go
Yeah.
in and be you. And how did your family feel about you going to that job? Did they care? Were they like, oh, you're gonna be a hairdresser? Like, what was the vibe a bit?
My mum tells a story that how excited I was about getting the job. Actually,
Okay.
that my dad wasn't particularly impressed.
Yeah.
Like my dad was in the military for all his life. You know, he was a major, and I think the idea that his son was a hairdresser wasn't potentially the that wasn't the career path
His
that he thought
idea.
for me.
Yeah.
But at the same, yeah, but at the same time, like now, I don't think that I don't have a larger cheerleader or cheerman, you know, in my father. You know, like he tells everybody now. You know, so I think you know that yeah. So my parents have always been supportive, and
Yeah.
even if behind he wasn't particularly impressed, I know that you know they just wanted me to be happy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
that's something that I really want to convey through this platform, and where I kind of want to take it is getting rid of that feeling that being a hairdresser isn't enough or isn't a good career or isn't successful. And somebody like you is exactly who I wanted to have on, because you have had this international career. You've traveled the world doing hair, you're on stage, you've won awards. Like, that is showing, say, those parents, not yours in particular, but who think that, oh, you're going to be a hairdresser, or your friends or whoever, or even just for yourself, that holy shit, look at this career that you can have. Like,
yeah. You know what though? I think that if I look back to when I started at Scissors, and I don't think I realised the kind of career. And I did remember there was a clear thing. I've probably been working there about a year, and I did remember, and it was on the outskirts of London. I remember going, if I'm going to be a good hairdresser, I've got to go to the centre of London. I've got
okay.
to go. I've got to go to like a big salon, and I've got to.
Yeah.
So there was definitely a moment where I was like, and the girls that I worked with, they were so awesome, and there were these, and I'm still friends with quite a few of them now, and it was so, you know, there were these fantastic embodiment of what most hair salons should be. They liked to party, had fun hair, and they pushed us to do training, and they weren't necessarily educators themselves, but we did it, and you know, and so, but there was a moment where I was like, okay, I've got to move to the central London and get in a big salon,
And how did you
you
do
know.
that? Was
And
that your next move? After how long were you working there that you then moved on to
I
something
think
new?
I moved on about 18 months, maybe 15 months, but I think I had that epiphany about a year in. And
Okay.
then what I did was I just went into London on the train, as you do as a 17-year-old Grom. I was probably 18 then, and then went to every salon that I'd heard about, read about, and you know, Errol offered me a job. I got
Amazing.
so it's super funny though, because I remember getting interviewed by Errol, and then obviously now, and having them work with him, and we've had chats and drinking at night, you know, like, oh, but he wouldn't have remembered me as a Grom, you know, coming into his salon, because how many apprentices come in and go,
Yeah.
yeah, no, you know, whatever. But yeah, in his Knightsbridge salon. So and I took a job at Daniel Field, which was in Soho, and it felt the right fit, and it was the right fit, you know, and I stayed there for 7 years before I left to come traveling.
Incredible. And when
So
you were there, because your specialty right now is color, right? That's what I know you as, and what you
mhm.
definitely say you do. Were you doing everything then? And when did that feeling that color is what made sense, or color is where you wanted to pursue, happen?
Oh, I think Daniel was a colorist, and then his manager at the time, and my educator Bradley, he was a colorist, a really exceptional one. And there was a few others that, and the color education actually made a bit more sense to me than I was always a bit like. So if I pull hair this way, and I go like that, and I chop it, and it falls, it does what? And
Yes,
I
I was
really did
just
struggle with the
listening to
hair
this
crack.
before of you talking in your Evo interview, I think it was, saying that you didn't make sense the cutting, and that's how I feel. Like, I don't see it, I don't visualize it. It doesn't just like come to me like that. Whereas with color, and specifically freehand, and why I enjoy that so much is I had that aha moment of, oh, I can see exactly what I'm doing and putting it exactly where it goes, and yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, I think I remember being on the tube, and you've been to London, you know, there's this big long escalator going up, and I remember just looking, and I was probably 18 or 19, and just looking at people's hair and going, oh, she would be a 7.34. Oh, that is a this, and I think that I was just into it. Color just made more sense. Or I'd see someone and go, oh, her color's okay, but I would do this on. And I think that it just made more sense to me, really. And then when I found out you can make more money coloring, well, then I was like,
now we're talking. That was the
Yeah.
exact same for me. Literally, word for word, same for me. I was like, I could be charging $50 an hour or $250 an hour. And at home, everything's commission based. So not only did I like it better anyway, but to know that that was kind of a factor helped.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think there'd be, in North America, it's only people that colour hair, right?
Yeah, why would you have
That's how I
if
would
you
do
only
it.
work on commission?
Yeah,
You don't need to
hair.
figure it out. It's true. So how did that happen from going from working in the salon, say on the floor as a colorist, to then doing education? Where did that transition kind of happen? When you came to Australia, or had you already started making a name for yourself in England before you went traveling?
So Daniel Field, and I don't know if you would know him. He was pretty famous in his little circle, and he was probably he sort of started that ammonia-free run like in the 90s. He had ammonia-free hair.
That's when I started. Yeah, not when I started hairdressing, but that was like, I remember all the color classes being like, it's ammonia-free, it's ammonia-free. Like, I don't really ever say that now. I don't even know if it is.
Yeah, no, but so the product that he was touting that was called mineral and organic back then, I would go on the road with him. So we, educating in Wales and then in Scotland and all the way through. And so Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays, we would get in the car, and it wasn't, and I just remember like these funny car journeys, with my bosses and and we were doing exactly what in a much more lo-fi way, and then what I did for your major companies as well. And it was, you go out, you talk about, and
you were going assisting him at that point, like you were
assisting him. And then as I grew, I would get on stage and I would do my highlights and talk about it and what we'd do, and yes, so that was probably the start of my education in terms of becoming an educator, but not really realizing I was actually educating. I was just helping Daniel.
Yeah, fair enough. It's so interesting though, isn't it, how somebody can change your life like that, or change your path, that had you not maybe worked for him, or had you not been the one he chose to take, he could have taken someone else instead of you. And why do you think that you got those opportunities?
Well, I think, and it would be the same for any boss that would listen to this or speak to, the ones that are going to have the opportunities, because they're the first ones in the morning. I might not have been the first in the morning, but I was always the last to leave. And I think that
you'd be arriving from the night out.
I've just made it again. All right, slightly hungover. No, but I think that but I was always the last to leave. I was always to put my hand up to do something, and even if I knew it wasn't going to be super fun, I would still be, yep, I can do that, I can help. Yeah. And I think that as an owner, as an educator, as a even just as a workmate, you want that. You gravitate to those assistants who help you, who assist you, who want to do it and don't pull a face and roll their eyes and do it. So it's probably that.
Amazing. I love that. I couldn't agree more. So how did the transition happen coming over here? I know you traveled a bit around. Were you doing hair then as well, or that was just your ability to travel and then landed here?
I have sort of it's a kind of a funny thing in terms of, my friend who he started O&M, him and his wife Josie. Then they're now split up, and we worked together in at Daniel Field, and that's how O&M was created. So in terms of and then so when he left the UK in '99 and said come to Australia, And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And so I eventually did, and I traveled around Asia for about 18 months and arrived in Australia, pretty broke, and went, you know, as you do when you're,
In
you know,
there.
24 and traveling. And I literally called Alan and Joseph and said, oh, can I come and stay on your floor from the airport? And they were like, oh, we've just moved back to mum and dad's, his parents. I was like, oh, right. I think I had like $50 to my name.
Oh,
and he said, oh, but there's someone I
You're
know.
really screwed.
Yeah, mate. There's someone I know who's looking for a roommate. And I was like, okay. And he gave me a number, and I called them from the payphones. Remember those?
Oh my God, you're
at the
exposing
airport.
yourself
And
here.
I'm quite old, 44. And anyway, so, and she, and I called her up, and she goes, yeah, come on. And she had a flat in Clovelly, and there was a mattress on the floor, and I pretty much moved in to that room. And that day I went out and I looked up every hairdresser, and I went in and I got a job at Anthony Whitaker, who was at the time.
Really?
Yeah. So I did some sets of highlights for him, and you know, I obviously knew Anthony, and I'd seen him at Salon International, and you know, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It sort of aligned, and basically the aligning of stars was actually when I went in on the Tuesday. I think I landed on the Tuesday and went in that afternoon. The Saturday before, his head colorist had quit, so it was sort of, yeah, it was very, very fortuitous. So I rolled in and
stuff like
landed.
that always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, so you know, like that cat that you chop off the thing and land on your feet. I was that. You know, I landed on my feet, and I could pay my rent 2 weeks later, and yeah, and there I was, I guess, working for, at the time, one of the most well-known hairdressers in Sydney. So,
yeah. And were you specifically trying to do, like, had you realized at that point from England, I want to be this name, I want to be the one on the stage at Salon International, I want to be that person, and that's what you were kind of looking for in a salon? Or at that point you were just broken, take it? Like, how did that
I think that I'd always thought, you know, when you look at the magazines and you read other people's articles and you go, oh, I'd like to do that. So that was definitely in my mind. But I think arriving broke in Australia, finding out where all this, I still went to the good salons. You know, I think, yeah, I still went what I thought was considered. You know, I went up to Joe Bailey's. I went, you know, and
yeah, you have your network of people in your head, and that standard of quality of work and what you've been used to working in that you would continue. And
what Alan had told me, you know, because again, it wasn't like I could just go on and Google search someone, you know, like it was, you know, there was still dial-up internet, but it wasn't quite what it is now, where we're just straight away, oh, hang on a minute, let me just check out Crystal, bang, bang, you know, let's go. That the world that we have at our fingertips it was very different.
Yeah, totally.
So you know, the analogy of the cat, I was fortunate, 100%.
But I think you choose your own fortune too. I think that's something I say for myself a lot, and people are like, yeah, but it comes to the people who want it, exactly like you said, who are willing to work for it, who put themselves out there, and people like that, and people want people like that on their team. So a bit of both.
I always say that I never hire for skills, I'll hire for attitude. And it's that attitude that you can't teach almost. And it's the people that have and it's not that, it's just the willingness and the want or the need, you know, and it's that sort of stuff that is really hard to explain to people, is why we like something. So, I mean, yes, I landed on my feet, and you know, who knows, if I'd landed and gone somewhere else, it might have been slightly different, but I'm sure it would be, but there's still probably a story.
It's crazy how moments like that change your life, though, isn't it? And now look at you live in Australia, and you have a wife and kids, and own a salon, and all of these things. So the next thing I want to talk about is, because you haven't been a creative director or an educator or something for literally like every color brand, all of them, like
no,
the big ones, O&M, Wella, L'Oreal, Matrix, and now Eve. Like, who does that? That's incredible and amazing. And how did that first maybe kind of deal happen? Like that you got this title, or talk me
My
through.
current title, or what
I don't know,
backwards, or what?
any, all like,
So I
how
mean,
did it start? Maybe the first one, like how did that start that you went, like when did you
so
start getting noticed
so
for your color work rather than doing clients? Like when did you get noticed?
I think I was putting my own work out there. So I was doing shoots, and I think I networked really well. But my boss, after I left Anthony's, I had a boss called Barney Martin, who's based in Sydney, another English great guy. And so when, and a lot of the first education gigs were because Barney was this, and is this great hairdresser, great session stylist, and he cut and styled and I coloured. And so we just sort of rolled through quite early days, and that's why I started educating for Wella when I was with him. And then when we moved when we went from Wella to L'Oreal with him, you know, so I did, so
it just kind
those
of
jaunts with
snowballed
Wella.
from there, all of these things.
Yeah, and it wasn't, and that was nothing really to do with me. I mean, and then when I left Barney's to open up Stevie English Hair, and the whole idea really when we opened in 2007, that our goal was try and have as low impact on the environment as possible. And so, and that's O&M, right? At the time.
I work with
and
O&M
so
now.
yeah, and so I was with O&M for 7 years, I think, doing that job, you know, colouring, working with Janelle, their creative director, a lot, working with, you know, and I think, and as my name got a bit bigger and our salon, we started doing better, and then you have more value for companies, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so we were doing, and at the time when I decided to leave O&M, I guess I felt I couldn't do any more with them.
Yeah.
You know, I'd done everything I could with them. I'd done my New York Fashion Weeks. I'd done my color in this, and I have so much respect for Josie and Alan. And I mean, obviously Josie now. I mean, Alan was always my friend, but Josie is too.
Yeah.
And you know, and I've watched what she's done over the last. You know, she's brilliant. But at the time, then I needed a multinational to sort of take Stevie English Hair to the next level.
Yeah.
I guess. And so it was, you know, we looked at lots of brands, and we were like, which is the one that can help us the most? And at the time in Australia, we felt Matrix, and to be fair, it absolutely was. And I had this fantastic ride with Matrix, you know, and I started off, because you don't know when you join a brand, then they don't give you a golden key and say, okay, you're now a global creative director, or you're now an international artistic director for us. You have to earn your stripes, and you have to do everything. And I was really fortunate that on my first job, there's a beautiful lady called Kelly Conroy, who she's now in charge of Bumble and Bumble education.
Oh, wow, amazing.
And, you know, and I'd met her previously when she tried to get me for Redken here in Australia. And then and then the next job I got, and then, you know, and if you succeed and you do well, and you can, well, not just network, but I also think with the Matrix as well, I think if you can do a 24-hour flight, sleep for sort of 5 hours, and then come in and do a big 12-hour day and not get upset and not do, and there's lots of those other skill sets that, you know, and you get on well with people, and you don't get short, and you know, and you put the companies, you know, first, and then, but you also do really well with the team, and you put your young guys around you, and, you know, you try, and I had some fantastic hairdressers in Jamie Stevens, Paul Fultrick, you know, from the UK, and then we had this fantastic core team at Matrix, and it was super
Everyone
fun.
got on. You enjoyed doing those shows and doing those long flights, because that's the part that a lot of people don't see, is the big flights, the long ass days. You are in there from 6 a.m. until midnight, you know, like they're massive days, and if you're not loving it and the people and the team and all of it, you can't do it.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, and it's 5 a.m. and it is up until midnight coloring wefts for the next thing, and then you're straight away doing it again. And, you know, and there's plenty of glamour around it, but there's a lot of hard work, sweat, and alcohol.
Fair enough.
So
And then now, did you always want your own salon? Is that something that was in the back of your
no,
head for a
no,
while,
no,
or no? Because you have a
no.
very
I think,
successful salon now, I would say, right? Like, and this very branded
yeah,
salon as well. Like, it's very obvious when you walk by that it's Stevie English. It's very you and the wallpaper. Like, is that
yeah.
a vision you had?
I think when we decided we were going to open up a salon, I think we then definitely felt that what we wanted to do was have a brand, not a salon.
Yeah.
So
And have you always dropped your
that
last name
was
and been
uh,
English? Because if
no, that
anybody on
was
the
when
outside or me before, I would never know that that's not your last name.
yeah, it's my pseudonym. It's my Mark Twain to Samuel Clement. You know, you know what? It was just a fortunate. All I knew was Australians liked English hairdressers,
Yeah.
and so I was looking for something that was quintessential English.
So smart.
I was, you know, and then played with you know, my personality, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, and I you know, and that was where I guess Stevie English came from. You know, at the time I was looking at Beatles songs, you know, like Eleanor of Rigby Hair and like rock and roll, you know, like I was trying to think of like something that, you know, the Sex Pistols, Sextile Pistols, and I was trying to think of things that could be English, and people go, oh, that must be English now. And I think it was dinner here, and someone said, have you come up with your name for your salon? And I was like, oh, Stevie, and there was a book and it said English, and I said Stevie English, and I was like, oh, and it was honestly like that. Yeah.
I love that.
And then
That's
we
so
decided,
interesting because it is quite hard picking something like that, even for my show or whatever. It's like it's very hard to come up with something that one represents you, two you like, three is catchy. Like there's so many things that nobody else has also is hard.
yes.
I love it.
Oh,
I think
100%.
it's so cool.
And I think then, you know, all the things that annoyed me about places I've worked, like having light floors, and when you're a colorist and a messy colorist, you're like, I want dark floors, you know. And then like I wanted to have music everywhere, and I wanted a coffin, you know, all those little things you kind of tick off and go, all right, if it was mine, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And then that was probably how it became. And then I guess the last thing is working out, you know. So personally, and whether if anyone knows me or don't know me, I've tried to sort of run a lot of my own morals, or you know, that sort of fun, irreverence, all of that sort of stuff, and then you kind of have that within your brand.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's worked.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can feel it. I mean, I've been in your salon and it's a good energy and it's casual but professional. Like you can be, I just felt like you could just be you there and go and show up as you are, but also know that there was this expectation of quality that had to be happening as well, but that it was cool, it was chill. Like I really enjoyed it and the team was lovely. Like, yeah, I think that exactly what you're saying you tried to put into it has happened.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, like every good work environment, you know, it's not the owner, it's often your team that make it fantastic. And you know, and over the years we've had brilliant people, and now we've got probably one of the better teams we've had in terms of, you know, everyone gets on, the work is fantastic, you know, all of those sort of, but it is like a jigsaw puzzle, right?
Yeah, totally. And then how have you now transitioned into this new role? I know it's actually been a bit of a crazy time to start a new kind of global creative director when you can't really go around the globe, but maybe just walk us through how that
I'm
happens.
just in touch. Yeah, so I mean, Evo approached me end of last year and said that, you know, they were launching Colour and that they're sort of close, and you know, would I be interested in having a chat? And sort of, and I've always, you know, I'm sort of, you know, I'd like to think I was pretty honest, and like, and so I was like, oh look, I'm really happy with Matrix. Matrix is, you know, brilliant brand, and really would. And but they took me down. They took my wife and I, Mel and I, to Adelaide, and we went and had a look at this And I think I didn't realize how big Evo was.
Yeah.
Or how big Hair Care Australia was.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, and for anyone that doesn't know, it's this, they have this fantastic warehouse that they own where, you know, they bring in these great brands from Olaplex to obviously house their own Evo and Lakme. They've got all these great things, and it's just this sort of really well-oiled machine, but they have everything's in-house. So from their lawyers to their PR, you know, everything's there. So, you know, your Instagram account manager's there, the thing, and sort of they I guess they wowed us, wooed us and wowed us, and it
smoothed with us.
But also, yeah, but also it, you know, with no disrespect to a multinational, when I went to a multinational, we chose to do it because we felt it was going to help Stevie English Hair and my wife and I and our kids and help grow. But then,
and is that from, if you don't mind me asking, I just ask everything, you don't have to answer anything. Is that from a financial point of view, being like, I can go and work for this brand? And to me, the money is in the education as well. And that's when you're really able to do that. Was that something that getting into education gave you that freedom a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the education side of it, or piece of the puzzle, was at the time I was quite driven on trying to win an award.
Yeah.
And when I think about it now, at the time I always sort of said it wasn't about the award or trying to win it, but actually it was at 100% I wanted to win Australian Colourist of the Year.
Which you
and
did.
So, you know,
2018.
I did. 2018 I did. I think I had about 10 finalists between the two. But
I think that's really important for people to hear, that you don't win it on your first one 99% of the time, right? Like, it takes a lot of time and putting into that and not being discouraged by that.
Oh, 100%. But I would say that the piece of the puzzle was then the multinational or the company that offers a lot of education around the world. So that was why we went to Matrix.
Yeah.
Potentially more than the financial side, and I'm not going to lie and say there's not incentives in there, but it was more around hopefully you get to educate in New York, or you know, do the big tour, you know, you do,
and you did
absolutely.
do that, right?
But then with going back, with Matrix, I mean, I pretty much did everything, I think, over the sort of 6 years with those guys. It was just so much fun, and through Asia and big shows in Italy and Spain and big shows in America. And I think that in Australia, people didn't realize how big Matrix is in like America. It's like the #1.
Yeah, it's very different in Australia.
Yeah, whereas here in Australia, it's quite small.
It's the bubble of Australia, and everybody, you know, knows everyone and has their brand, and that's all that it is. But I've come from the opposite of that, and being like, don't you guys know that there's a lot more out there? Like, it is very different in that way. That's so interesting. So sorry, keep going. You were getting schmoozed in Adelaide.
No, but then I think Mel and I realized that it wasn't the smoothing, it was actually the company alignment in terms of how an Australian company that is fun, is cheeky, that has low impact on the environment, you know, all this sort of stuff that when we set out to open up Stevie English Hair was a part of what really sat with us. And so
your core values.
Absolutely. And you know, from what I could see and can see with the company, you know, that they want to educate hairdressers. They want, you know, there's so many great things about it. And so I think that it was more that, one, they wanted me to do that job, to help launch and, you know, and test and launch a product company. And so, you know, the opportunity in terms of taking a brand new color to market that's never been done, you know, you know, and Evo's in 40 countries, right? So, you know, having that opportunity to go out and educate, inspire, but also, so personally, there was lots of stuff, but also, you know, the idea that we can grow a team in Australia with, you know, of young Evo colorists that can potentially go on and do the work. Because again, I'm 44, I can't do this forever. And so, you know, I like the idea of, you know, the next up and coming colorist who would sort of come, and then we sort of work on how I got my sort of stuff wet
Kind
and
of
got
doing the
better and
same
better.
thing, like starting. And so what I'm gathering from the from the conversation and how you kind of got into being this high profile person for the brand is you go in being the assistant or whoever you may be, going in and helping and volunteering, and then sometimes getting to be the one on stage showing your skills and talking about it. And from there it evolves, and it's not so much that you see a job posting for creative director of this, like you kind of everybody who gets to that role works their way up kind of organically a bit.
I guess that's probably how my journey has sort of got me here. It's that, you know, what was it someone said to me once? They said, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, right? And I'm never the smartest person in the room.
I don't think I would be.
But I think that
Told you that they're pretty
myself
smart.
fantastic. Yeah. No, but I think that, you know, it would be a boring place if you think you're the smartest person in the room, right? And I think that if you surround yourself with people that challenge you, people that are creatives, and you know, you can build each other up together. And I think that that's probably a part of what I love. And what's exciting to me about Evo is the opportunity in terms of building. I'm going to get better in that job and role, but also building these up and coming, you know, salon owners, hairdressers, you know, and have lots of fun doing it. You know, it's a great ride. And
I think you're just a very approachable person, maybe unexpectedly approachable, I would say. Like, you're very easy to talk to. You're very warm. So I think the fact that you are saying that that's something that you want in the role is to teach the next generation coming up and bring those people up, and the values that you have that align with the company and all of that. I think that that's really special. It's really nice to hear.
Well, thank you. But I think that obviously there's been a lot of hard work put into, you know, when companies look at someone to take on a job, you know, that they put in a lot of hard work and they know potentially what they're looking for, but they've done all the hard work in creating creating the core values of a company, creating all that sort of stuff. And you know, my job is to help Evo, you know, Hueverse. So we've got out of this world color. You know, we've just dropped Bottle Blonde, which is
I saw.
lifter.
I've been snooping on your Instagram for quite a while. They're wondering what was going on.
Powder, I've never. I don't like the word bleach, right? But our powder lighting is ridiculous. It is so good. I'm like, I've been frothing on it.
And so were you getting, so as this role that you've taken on, were you getting to try? Are they sending you like bag A, bag C, bag D, whatever, and you try them all? Or like, was that kind of what you got to do? Or
I would like to say that that's exactly how it is. But when I got there, that we were sort of about 90% ready to go.
Okay.
On stuff. So all the new stuff that will be coming out in 2022, that's where I'm at.
How cool. Are you loving that aspect of it? Like a completely different
100%.
side almost? Like, I think I would find that quite interesting, the science and getting to actually see how what I use every day is made. And do you get to have you get to have input in, I would prefer if it was this consistency or things like that?
100%. And that's cool. That is the job. And you know, the thing with Evo is that they want to take out nasties. Yeah. So, you know, so the idea is, can we do this without X? Can we do this without Y? And so, and it's such an interesting learning curve. So yeah, it's super cool. And the team before me who got it to this brilliant space. And then now we're sort of filling in holes, going, okay, well, we've got this, but if we wanted to have something that was a bit more pink, we wanted this, you know, and now we can go, and now we're in a place like, you know, what does it look like if we created more demi-tones that are super flat or super blue or super, you know, whatever it could be. So it's super cool.
I think that's a really interesting thing for hairdressers to know, is another path, like, I love these conversations because there's so many things that you can do. And if that's something that, you know, piques your interest more, you can get into developing color. And like, I think that that's so interesting.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of color out there,
Yeah.
and you know, and I think that what we've sort of sat down and said is no color company has it completely right. You know, so why don't we try and go, well, let's try and have the best grey coverage. Let's
Yeah.
try and have the best tonally, you know, because we're starting from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, and so it's great. So it's this blank slate of what is the best color, and going, and from whatever brands, and then going, okay, well, let's try and do that, but make our version without
Yeah.
any nasties, make it, you know, perform. And it's really exciting. It's really, really exciting.
I'm really excited. I think that that's really cool. And I really have enjoyed hearing your journey, and a little bit of kind of picking the right companies for the time in your life. And the person you are now is quite different to who you would have been 20 years ago, or, you know, and that there's options. And
I was definitely an idiot 20 years ago, and I'm still an idiot
I
now.
was gonna say,
So I mean, you
maybe
know.
still are. Do you know I wrote a quote down? This is funny. I read in one of your things, "You are the most beloved figure," and I was like, "That's so nice." Who said that about you?
Who's
I don't
said
know.
that?
It was in some article I was reading about you. Because when I asked you for your bio, you were like, "Surf Dad Color," and I was like, "Okay, I'll do a little bit of research." I don't need a lot of prep for these. Like, I like them to be quite organic, but I was like, I need a little bit of a timeline, which was funny. But I was reading this and I wrote it here. "You're the most beloved figure," but I have to find the quote and put it in.
Yeah, I think that might have been my mum or something.
Your dad, your fan dad,
Yeah, yeah,
your
my
cheer
yeah,
dad.
yeah, 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 my cheerman dad,
Oh, that's
cheerman,
too funny.
cheerman in a can, your dad.
I reckon mine would be my grandpa. He
Yeah,
still, I
so
used to do extensions, you know, like the little like beaded extensions when I learned in hair school to do them. And he still at his home is like, "Do you have extenders in?" to like the nurses and stuff. All he talks about is extenders. And I'm like, oh God, I don't even do those anymore. It's like the only thing he remembers, you know?
you know,
Oh, it's
that's
funny
good
how
though.
they
I
do
love.
hop on board.
Well, I think it's nice to have cheerleaders, and whether it's, you know, your parents or someone who's seen you do something nice, you know, it's nice. I always enjoy that. I definitely think that I don't always deserve some of the praise or credit you get, because you always know that you might get it, but there would be you know, you're standing on the shoulders of 20 people who've made you look good. But yeah, you know, it's nice to get it.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really, really appreciate it. And I think that that's been very insightful. And I'm sure we could talk for hours, and there's so many more things you could share. But I think that that's really great. And I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Hey, surf, dad, color is all you need.
Hashtag
Right?
surf dad color. Thank you
Cheers,
so
mate.
much.